What's good, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony, aka Descendant of Chaos and Controversy, and today, I have something interesting that I want to discuss. And I'm only discussing this partly and mainly because there's another YouTube channel. And if you don't know, it's the Debate Me channel. I follow this individual from time to time, not consistently, but every now and then he puts something out there that draws and catches my attention. And I reviewed the content of the details in the video, and I said, man, this individual brings up some very valid and interesting points. Damn. But as of recent, which is blatantly obvious and unmistakably reasonable to point out, was how conveniently what's inconvenient to cover doesn't get the recognition or the attention because it doesn't fit the one-sided narrative. And I'm gonna put the link in the, not in the description, but under the comment section of this particular video that the individual who runs the Debate Me channel has covered. Because damn, I'll be damned if he was on point with pointing this out. I mean, some say I knocked the ball out the park. This individual hit a home run. What this? You can be in disagreement, but when you could point out the obvious and say, interesting. Would you expect anything different? No. So, when it comes to stories that have came and went, when it came to the black community and the injustices that have fell upon that group, okay? When you have examples of a lot of controversial topics pertaining to the George Floyds, the Breonna Taylors, the Ahmaud Arbery's, the Tamir Rice, the Sandra Bland's, and so on and so forth. You got to have a seat in the audience chair and watch the chaos take place, the rhetoric unfold. Have people who were pro-black and anti-police to those who were pro-police and anti-black. Okay? You had those groups clashing, just going at it. And what's even more surprisingly is that those that kind of look like us, that claim to represent us, turned out to be a disappointment. Because as time went on, you learned that that so-called representation wasn't for us. Okay? And what I mean by us, I mean by those in the black community. Okay? Those who look like us but are actually spokespersons for another group. Okay? And I'm not talking about ethnic groups or race or whatever. I'm talking about parties of interest, special interest groups that consist of. Okay? So, with that out the way, that created a one-sided, if not a misleading tool of false narrative. Because now you've got it to where And I've said this many times over, and I'll keep saying it until it registers, until it computes, until the conditioning mindset is altered. When it comes to law enforcement and the black community, it isn't solely and only an issue that falls basically and only upon the black community. Yes, it's their history that validates what we've gone through and what we had to deal with over time throughout decades without no how should I say accountability, no true justice. um Got a lot of people deflecting, a lot of pushback, a lot of disbelief, and even with evidence and examples presented to validate the grievances, the complaints, there were still excuses made on behalf of law enforcement to excuse their actions. Which again brings me to ask the question, if you condone such behaviors coming from law enforcement, where you agree that it's okay for them to kill people without them having their due process in court, then what does that say about you? Because what happens when the time comes when you're faced with that same very predicament, and all you are complying and doing what the officer says or whatever the case may be is irrelevant, and you find yourself laying there dead because the excuse that the officers gave was, I was in fear for my life. And even though you did everything right that you put out in the comment section, that you was condescending about, when you was kind of like taking jabs at the black community, and then you find yourself in the same predicament, doing everything that you said should have been done, and you still suffered the same fate. And do you think that your so-called favorites is gonna point that out, speak on your behalf, say, oh, wait a minute, this man or this woman, did nothing wrong. They didn't have a criminal background. They was an upstanding citizen. Um, they, from what I saw from the body cam, they complied and did everything they was told. So why did this cop, take them out? You think they're gonna cover that story? Again, do you think they're gonna speak on your behalf? And if you think that they will, well, here's a particular example as to why I say that ain't gonna happen. Now, Hunter Britton, I've covered this story twice. Just recently, they had his funeral. Okay, you had Benjamin, whatever, that lawyer, and Reverend Al Sharpton, whatever. I have my own reserve what I want to say about that, but it's not about my perception of those two. But needless to say, they had Hunter Britton's funeral. His uncle. I I saw the pain in Hunter's uncle's face, because here you have it to where a kid can't go off and enjoy the rest of his life because it was cut short by Roanoke County Deputy Sheriff, whatever, because he had a bottle of fucking antifreeze that was going to be used to be put behind the tire of his truck. because the policy was violated by not activating his body cam before making the split decision. I can't even say it was split because he was in no immediate danger. But before he decided to draw his gun, aim, point, and shoot, he could have just activated his body cam before he got out his vehicle to engage Hunter Britton. But that didn't happen. He decided to activate the body cam after the fact. And that is the reason why he got fired. Okay? But because, and I'm going to say this, and you can feel how you want, get all in your feelings, get emotionally triggered, I don't care. I really don't give a fuck at this point. Because this was a young white kid. And he isn't the first and he won't be the last, unfortunately. You don't get the attention deserved equally when it comes to these cases in other communities outside of the black spectrum that gets all this national and local media coverage or attention, even from the favorites. But when you have small channels like the local news that covered it, that story, the Young Turks, Indisputable, me, myself, the Debate Me channel. I was thinking if there was any others that I didn't really come across any more other than myself to cover this story. Why is that? See, now, it's hard. It is very hard when you can't bring up somebody's criminal history. I've yet to see somebody say anything about Hunter Britton having a criminal history when the when the deputy sheriff executed him. Yeah, I said executed. I didn't see the immediate urge to see if he was a criminal, or I didn't hear any taunting rhetoric saying how he should have complied, this, that, and everything else. I didn't hear none of that. What I also didn't hear was the favorites covering this story. People are like, damn, you keep talking about these favorites. Who are these favorites that you keep referring to? I don't know. Who are you making these references to when you keep saying these favorites? I don't know. Maybe the Brandon Tatums who's pro-police, all about the police. Police can't do nothing wrong, this, that, and everything else. You know, black people this, black people that, anti-black rhetoric. If they hadn't done this, if they should have done that, nothing said about that incident. But you always run into the aid of, but you failed to say anything about Hunter Britton. Because it goes against the narrative. Because you got a white kid, white cop, young civilian, law enforcement. Damn, that kind of, what do I do with that? Candence Owens ain't said nothing about it. But she had a whole lot to say about fucking Breonna Taylor. Had a whole lot to say about George Floyd. Why are you quiet all of a sudden right now when it comes to Hunter Britton? Oh, don't fit your narrative. Okay. ABL, Mr. Tag Along just to get along. Riding that Blexit train. Oh, you too are conveniently quiet. I'm starting to notice a pattern here. Hmm. And the funny thing is, I'm not the only one who noticed it. Again, the Debate Me channel has pointed that out. See, us small timers, we can see through the smoke screen and the bullshit. Okay? And like I said, there's nothing against you guys who follow these favorites. You know, that's the beauty of this country. You get to support and follow whoever. And for those of you who sit there and say, you're jealous, you know, that no, it has nothing to do with jealousy. Because as much energy as you put into agreeing with these people time in and time out, over and over and over again, and you don't question them on anything. But I can't entirely say that because I have had people come under my comment section and say, you know what, I rock with Brandon Tatum because of this, but, you know, he is wrong in this area. I don't always agree with him. So you do have those, I will say this to be fair, that would be a follower or a subscriber of these individuals, but don't always agree with what they put out there. Um, but for those that are diehard cult followers that agree with everything that comes out these people's mouth, that don't challenge them, that don't question them, that entertain the echo chamber, that you claim to be, oh, I'm a free thinker. Yeah, I can think for myself. Well, obviously, you need other people to think for you because they are your mouthpiece. You can't stand on your own accord. You don't have a difference of an opinion. Because everything I see, agree. But you don't sit there and say, you know what, Brandon Tatum, Candence Owens, ABLs, hey, you know what, you do have some points when it comes to this, but I can't always agree with that because there are other examples to prove otherwise. And here they are. There's validation in this, there's validation in that. But they won't touch that. They'll know that you're right. They'll know that you have a valid point. But will they admit to it? No. They'll deflect from, be dismissive of, probably say that you're this or you're that. Because you don't agree with them 100%, you know. But in some cases, I've seen Brandon Tatum has toned it down a little bit. There's some things recently that I could say, you know, he got validation in that. I don't follow Candence Owens. I don't care too much for ABL. I think I subscribed to ABL a long time ago, but then I was just like, he just follows the other two. That's how I feel. He don't, because after he said something about the Klan showed up and gave his family Christmas presents, I was like, I'm done. Nope. I want to know what those presents were. I was going to say, what was it, one of those black caddies to put on your front lawn? Or was it going to be like one of those ropes that you can make a noose out of, that you can hang on your Christmas tree? Let me stop. Tony, don't go there. People going to be like, why are you hating? Don't be mad. Real recognize real. And you looking mighty unfamiliar right now. But anyway, yes. The Debate Me channel, that individual pointed out, and he did a good video on that, talking about what's convenient for them to touch base upon and cover versus what's inconvenient for them to touch base upon and not cover. And I've said this many times over, and I'm gonna elaborate. Okay, um, there's a lot of misconception when it comes to what is put out there, what information is put out there, what people lead you to believe versus what they mislead you to believe. Okay, Hunter Britton wasn't the first, like I said before, and isn't going to be the last person in the white community to suffer the fate that he did by the hands of law enforcement. I've said this many times over, and again, I'll reiterate it. It isn't solely just a black issue when it comes to law enforcement. When I say us versus them, it's the civilians versus law enforcement. Now, I said it before, I do not want to make blanket statements. I don't want to give off a generalizing perspective. Is it all cops that are bad? No, not all cops are bad. You got some cops who are whistleblowers that point out bad behaviors, but unfortunately, they need protection against their own department when they come forth and provide body cam footage of disorderly conduct coming from an officer. And even though the officer is dead to rights wrong, you have the prosecution and the DA that covers their asses. Make excuses. Say, oh, they didn't violate policy. But here's the thing that I don't get. If I'm out of uniform, right, and say I go knock the shit out of somebody, soften them up a bit, I'm facing charges, okay? There is no question about it. I'm going to jail. An officer can have you in handcuffs and start wailing on you, beating you, kicking you. You're in handcuffs. You can't defend yourself. But if you do defend yourself or try to defend yourself, what do they conveniently say all the time? You was resisting arrest. No, I'm preventing myself from getting these Hail Marys placed on my fucking face. How is that considered resisting arrest? No, it's called me resisting getting my ass beat. If I go out and I see somebody that I don't like or I felt was a potential threat to me because we haven't been getting along, and I have a right to conceal and carry, and I take my gun out and I shoot this individual, am I going to be able to still go to work, continue to go on about my life until I go to court? I know people will say, well, if you have a bond, yeah, that can happen. But I'm saying without the option of having to deal with being bonded out. Or what I find myself sitting in jail until my court case comes up and I stand trial. Because it seems that whenever you have a police involved shooting on a civilian, they get what? Administrative leave. They are awarded due process. Whereas the person that they done shot and killed, they don't get that opportunity for their due process to go to court to plead their guilt or innocence. Where am I wrong? How do you not see where the problem lies? And then you got all these individuals that are pro-police that make every excuse until you find yourself in the same very predicament that you done mocked, was condescending about, showed no empathy towards, until you became that very person that you done shitted on, made fun of. Defecated on the hashtag. And here you are lying dead being a Mr. or Mrs. Nobody. And again, when you find yourself in that predicament that you felt so obligated to criticize others for being in, do you think your favorites are going to come to defend you? Speak up for you? Saying that the officer was wrong? Nope. Nope. Because while you won't get the national attention or the media coverage that other individuals would, and that's the problem. That's the problem. We're divided by race, color, hyphens, or what have you, that we are blindsided to conveniently ignore what's going on with our neighbors, to know that we share common injustices. Like I said, it isn't just a black issue. Shit goes on in the Latino community, white community, and it is by popular belief known that it goes on in the black community. That's unfortunate. It shouldn't happen. But for us as Americans, as civilians, which we are living in this country, the fairness and the equality going across the board when it comes to us enjoying our rights, our liberties and stuff like that, shouldn't be compromised by a person of law enforcement who has a chip on their shoulder, does their job in fear, handle people with negligence. We shouldn't be subjected to that. And for those in law enforcement who do the right thing, that do their job, follow policy, shouldn't be getting a bad rep because the DA and the prosecution or qualified immunity allow these bad apples to continue to exist and perform their duties wearing the badge, compromising and jeopardizing the safety and the livelihood of us, regardless of fucking color. Anyway, that's all I got for now. But it's not a laughing matter. Again, may Hunter Britton rest in peace. May blessings go out to his family. I know they're going through a hard time right now. I know they suffered a loss, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all. For anyone, when you suffer people leaving you prematurely. Again, I stated where I stood when it comes to children. When it comes to law enforcement taking children away from their families, when it comes to these child predators that go after these kids and abusing them. These teachers that are getting away with being sexual predators. Um, and unfortunately, I hate to bring this up, but when it comes to your own fucking parents that bring harm to their own children, if it's not the physical abuse, it's them um, killing their own kids or the boyfriends or the girlfriends for whatever reason, because they value who they are with more so than they do their own children. And the kids have to suffer or die at the hands of their own parents because of their involvement with whoever. Um, People going about unjustly killing somebody else's kid. Um, the Debate Me channel covered this too, and you'll see this because he pointed this out as an example with your favorites and stuff. When it came to that motherfucker that killed that little white boy, Justice for Cannon, um, and for whatever reason, you had them covering that story, and it was only because to point out that was a black guy killing a white man's young kid or whatever. I didn't agree with that. That was a fucked up story. Um, now, some might say something I might be in disagreement with, but my attitude is, it's like if there was any, how should I say, thing in regards to me giving a pass to a law enforcement officer, in regards to them just shooting somebody, that motherfucker who killed that little white boy, I would have been like, man, he don't need to fucking go to court. He don't even need to be arrested. You may as well just shoot that motherfucker. Now, if there was ever a criminal, when people say, well, damn, Tony, you seem to be in defense of this, that, and everything else, what would be the example of somebody that you would say law enforcement is justified in taking their life? That motherfucker who killed that little white boy, that would be the example of law enforcement that I would say, yep, I give them a pass. Go ahead. Take that motherfucker out. That's just how I feel. I know people talk about, well, it shouldn't be going by, well, I feel to an extent there are some exceptions. That be one of them. But anyway, until next time, until next video, please like, share, and subscribe. Please follow those steps so I can bring you some more, I wouldn't necessarily say quality video, but you know what I'm alluding to. Anyway, peace.